Hour number 2, live right here on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid and all across that SportsGrid network. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. What a Thursday it is. Maybe one of the best days on the sports calendar. I know I said that a week ago for the round of 64 Thursday, but it even intensifies here. Sweet 16 Thursday as the madness begins once again in the 2024 men's NCAA tournament. And not just the big dance, but baseball. It is the opening day of this new MLB campaign in 2024. And this second hour is dedicated to getting you up to speed on everything, and I mean everything, you need to know for this new Major League Baseball season. A future forecast looking at how both of the leagues will play out this year, some picks for you, and an early look at the 13 games that we have today on opening day. Baseball is back.
Love the fact that baseball's back to in a big way in the afternoon. A ton of games in that 4 o'clock Eastern hour, so they will be clear and done by the time we hit the Sweet 16 tonight, so we can get ready for some college basketball action. But I'm excited. The only thing, again, is a little bit of a damper here. Yeah. I really thought the best game of the day overall, not just because I'm a Phillies fan, is Strider going up against Wheeler, Braves versus Phillies, that rivalry. That one got rained out here early, but still a lot of games to take a look at, and that long grind from April, May, June, July, August, September, October, and November in Major League Baseball season gets started today.
MLB season touches in more than likely to 8 months of a calendar year. It is a long grind. It is 162. We welcome in that SportsGrid radio audience here before we preview the American League as we say hello to Sirius XM Channel 159 and all of our radio terrestrial affiliates now in the mix as well. He is Donnie. I am Ben. We had a full slate originally, but with some bad weather and some rain here in the Northeast, a 15-game slate became 13. So 30 MLB clubs, 26 in action, but that means 2 more games tomorrow in what was a shorter slate that made Donnie very, very angry as we took an early look at opening day earlier this week. No Mets and Brewers, that game postponed at Citi Field. No Phillies and Braves, that game postponed at the Bank in Philadelphia. But still 13 games to run through, and we start with a look at the American League. Big picture forecast for a new year in Major League Baseball. The Astros enter as the favorites, plus 360. Of course, they made it to the American League Championship Series a season ago. I believe they have made it to the ALCS for something like 7 consecutive years, something ridiculous in the AL. The Yankees had a ton of optimism with Juan Soto joining the boys up in the Bronx in the pinstripes, but with some concern around the reigning AL Cy Young winner in Garrett Cole, that number has moved back. And how about the reigning American League pennant winners, the reigning World Series champs, the Texas Rangers? They round out the top 3, plus 650, alongside the Orioles, who see that number grow as well, plus 650 to win the American League. Donnie, when you look at the AL pennant odds, what grabs your attention first?
The AL West is going to be very competitive once again. Those top 3 teams going to be duking it out all season long. But I do agree with the fact that the Houston Astros are placed at that plus 360 price to take down the pennant in the AL, and rightfully so. As Ben just pointed out, seemingly they're there every year. So in order to win a World Series, Ben, what do you need? Number one, a good baseball team, and to make the playoffs every year, the Astros will do that. Solid pitching staff, great bullpen now, boosted over the offseason by getting Hader, which was a great thing for them here because in the playoffs, yeah, you win with starting pitching, but more importantly, you win with the dominant bullpen, and maybe they have that. I disagree with the Yankees at a plus 450 price. Maybe if they'd have added another frontline pitcher to go along with a really healthy Garrett Cole, you would buy into them. But they did get Juan Soto, which I think is great. That 1 through 9 lineup looks tremendous, but I'm not banking on that. But we know why the Yankees are up top. They're going to get a lot of money here in the betting market, so these books do, including the FanDuel Sportsbook, have to protect themselves. But the one wild card team, which shouldn't be a wild card team, is sitting at a plus 650 price. It's the Texas Rangers. They just won the World Series last year. Is it hard to go back-to-back? Absolutely it is. But let's also see. It's a solid team as is built right now. Some good young talent, draft picks that are homegrown, some free agents that they've used to their advantage, being able to spend money over the past couple of years. But hear me out on this. This might be a blessing in disguise. Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer are on that roster. They won't be there for opening day, but let's just say you get both of those guys back by midsummer, and they're pitching decently. I'm not even talking about Cy Young-wise, just decent. You look forward to a playoff run where if they're in form by the time you get there, the amount of talent they have as a 1, 2, 3, 4 punch for pitching could be absolutely tremendous. And so many times we take a look at Max Scherzer getting up there in years. He's usually been a very good pitcher in the first half of the season, only to fade late and maybe not even pitching in the playoffs because his arm is dead.
Yep.
The longer you hold him out to save those innings, that could be one of those bonuses in the second half of the season and into the playoffs. So I would take a flyer on the Texas Rangers at a plus 650 price, thinking about what might happen around midsummer.
There was so much investment in Arlington over the past 2 off seasons leading up into last year, getting guys like Corey Seager and Marcus Semien and, of course, Jacob deGrom a winter ago. From the pitching staff perspective, it did not really pay off. You had Jordan Montgomery, who was sensational in last year's October run, but you saw the investment start to build offensively in that lineup for the Rangers. And, oh, by the way, they have a man by the name of Wyatt Langford, who was a rookie out of Florida, who led all of spring training this year with 20 RBIs and just one off the home run lead with 6 to add to a very explosive offense already. I would certainly keep an eye on the Rangers. Donnie, we showed you the top 6 right there. That's an important number. Of course, it's the 6 best teams that make it into a Major League Baseball postseason in either league. And you will see 2 teams from the American League East, 3 teams from the American League West, and what would be the divisional winner, the divisional favorite, that is the Minnesota Twins in the American League Central. But I do want to mention 2 other American League East teams as we look at the rest of the board in the AL, or at least most of the 15 teams that play in this league. The Blue Jays still have a minus money price to make the postseason. So the odds makers already expect the race for the wild card in the AL to be highly competitive, and that does not even include the Tampa Bay Rays at a plus 105 price. The Rays have made the postseason 5 consecutive seasons.
Yeah, no, you're right about it. The one thing you can factor on with the Tampa Bay Rays, losing superstars, they're used to it. They account for it. They know in their pipeline they can replace some of those players. So if you're going to have a pitcher that's expected to make $150 million on the open market, you know he's not coming back. So they prepare for this. The one thing that we do know in Major League Baseball more than ever, I understand we look at dominant starting pitching, and that makes the most sense here. But to be honest, you give me a team with quality, not dominant starting pitching, and a very good bullpen with multiple guys throwing 100 miles an hour for great matchups. I like those teams here. It seems like we doubt the Tampa Bay Rays every single year that they enter. They're not going to be as good as the Yankees, the Red Sox. They just don't have the talent or the payroll. Don't leave them out here, because the one thing we do know, they'll be competitive all the way through just because of that bullpen.
Absolutely so. We'll look at more of the American League, the individual award races for that MVP, for the Cy Young, and what it might mean this season. Up next, before we turn our attention to the NL, it's a Major League Baseball opening day preview. Next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
American League award odds now as we looked at the pennant chase and those prices for win totals and to make the playoffs. Now we look at the individual perspective, where at least 2 of the past 3 years, it was almost like when you started a Major League Baseball season, it was giving the award to win the MVP award to Shohei Ohtani. If he was going to pitch and hit, there would not be anybody that would be more valuable than that. Well, Ohtani, now only a hitter for 2024, and in the National League, opens up the MVP race. And as we look at the Cy Young Awards as well, Juan Soto, the favorite to win the American League MVP. His teammate in pinstripes, Aaron Judge, second best price. Garrett Cole, the reigning Cy Young winner. But with being out for at least the first month of this season, it is now Corbin Burnes, the AL Cy Young favorite, now in Baltimore at an 8-1 number.
Yeah, we're wide open in the Cy Young race here this year because you don't have those normal names that we expect at the top of the leaderboard, which, again, Corbin Burnes is a great pitcher, but going into a new environment, maybe he has to work on some things that didn't in the past. And also keep in mind, Burnes going over to a division that has a lot of small ballparks. Forget about just pitching in the Oriole land there down at Camden Yards, where they did push back the fences and left, which is going to help him a little bit. But you're still pitching in Fenway. Toronto moved in the fences again, and Yankee Stadium. So you're not going to get any bonuses at that point, but it is a wide open race. And a lot of fun, so a lot of big tickets here you can make on those items. But if we're taking a look at the AL race, I always find this interesting, right? FanDuel Sportsbook here and the Yankees. It's Soto and Judge, 1 and 2. It's the same. So let's just say, again, for just, competitive purposes, Soto hits 45 home runs. Judge hits 47 home runs. It's not everybody going like, okay, 47 wins. Everybody votes for Aaron Judge. Soto's going to steal some of those from his own teammate at this point. So when I look at that situation, I say, is there a chance those two could run away with it? Yes. Small ballpark, unbelievable swings, stay healthy, a lot of home runs can leave there, and that's usually what we look at, the overall statistics. But am I wrong to say to myself, Mike Trout, who basically has been injured the past couple years, plays in Los Angeles, Ohtani is gone. If he plays and is healthy this year, the only goal for the Angels is him just getting statistics here. He's at a 20-1 price. And who's to say that if he regains that form, as we'll talk about as a generational talent, which was on a trajectory of maybe being the best overall baseball player we've ever seen play in over 100 years, 20-1 seems feasible. If Trout stays healthy, what do you pencil him in for? 320 average, 40 bombs, 110 RBIs on a bad baseball team that's probably at the end of the season going to move up to the leadoff position to get more at-bats to try to get more home runs? Come on now.
I think that's the biggest if Mike Trout stays healthy. And let me add this if Mike Trout stays in Anaheim this year as well. The Angels have the third lowest win total in the American League at 72.5. Would they look to make a huge shakeup at a certain point this year if things don't go well for the Halos? Rookie of the Year in the American League, like I mentioned, know the name Wyatt Langford for the Texas Rangers. His teammate Evan Carter, who played last year in the October run and was sensational. They have the two best price in the Rookie of the Year race in the AL. And A.J. Hinch, the Detroit Tigers, a little bit of optimism, plus 550 as the favorite to win Manager of the Year. Now we turn our attention to the National League, where the story is really at the top, DRS, and then maybe we make some cases for value. It already is a two-team race. That was the story last year in MLB as well, and before this year even starts in 2024, that narrative picks up once again. The Dodgers, plus 165, about $1 in front of the Braves, plus 250 to win the pennant. You have to move back by $5.50 to the Philadelphia Phillies, who have played in the National League Championship Series each of the past 2 years without the Dodgers or the Braves there as well.
You take a look at this, and I say to myself, you'd be a fool not to bet the Dodgers to win the National League because they're the best team. You'd also be a fool to play a plus 165 price on the Dodgers to win the National League. Same possibly could be said for the Atlanta Braves at only a 250 price. Now, if I would have told you both of those teams are the two best teams entering into the Major League Baseball season, Donnie, what's the problem? You tell me the Dodgers are the best, but I can't bet them at a plus 165 price. Just think about it as a handicapper, right? March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, and November. You're going to hold plus 165 there until that actually gets done, which I guess they would probably pay you out October 3rd or 4th whenever the season ends up. But still, you get the point in the picture here. Same thing with the Atlanta Braves at a plus 250 price. There's a lot of quality teams in Major League Baseball that we look forward to. I just don't understand the price point and betting and saying, you know what? I have unbelievable value on the Dodgers at plus 165. A lot of things do happen. But what we do know here is that the regular season does not cash this ticket, Ben. So if I tell you the Dodgers have the best record, the most wins in the National League, you don't cash that ticket. You then have to do it again in the playoffs, which you're going up in short series against other teams' dominant pitchers here. The Dodgers and the Braves are the two best teams in the National League. With those price points, I'm not betting them, Ben.
The Dodgers won the World Series in the short sprint that was the 2020 season. The Braves won the World Series the year after in 2021. Both teams have been expected to win it once again over the last 2 years in MLB, and neither have reached the NLCS. The Phillies have, and then, of course, 2 years ago was against the Padres, last year against the Arizona Diamondbacks, and it was the D-backs playing in the World Series as a National League pennant winner. You can see what is expected of both the Dodgers and the Braves. 102 and a hook, the win total for L.A. They might get there. The Braves have had at least 101 wins the last 2 years. 101 and a hook, their win total. The Braves have won the NL East 6 straight years. The Dodgers have won the NL West 10 of the last 11 seasons, and that is baked into the price. Unlike the American League, Donnie, that had 6 teams that were favored to see the postseason, maybe even 7 when you throw in the Toronto Blue Jays. Only 5 teams have a minus money price to see the National League postseason, not because they're bad ball clubs, not because the Dodgers and the Braves are going to run away with it, just because so much is left up in the air. And you can see the drop-off in the numbers. The Phillies are minus 230 to see the playoffs. That's the third best price. The D-backs have the fourth best number at minus 115. So much is up in the air when you look at the National League as we move to down the board. Could teams like the Giants or the Padres make a run? Maybe so in the National League.
Yeah, and you're taking a look and saying, wait a second here. Padres, good baseball club here. You take a look at the Giants, good baseball club. Plus money to make the playoffs. Where do I sign up? Why? Well, look at that division. They are going to be beating on each other on a day-to-day basis, which says to yourself, hey, I'd rather be in, like, let's just say the NL Central at this point than being out in the West. But I still do have some positive vibes here for the Padres and the Giants, even though you are going to be going toe-to-toe in that division with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And the same thing about the Arizona Diamondbacks being a slight favorite at minus 115 to get into the playoffs. I think they make some sense. I love the addition of Montgomery late, the same way I love the addition of Snell staying in that NL West and going to the San Francisco Giants. There is a lot more parity for us, guys, outside of the Dodgers and the Braves in the National League than we might find in the American League. So you might find some gems down the line because, Ben, teams do make the playoffs. If the Dodgers and the Braves run away in the NL, it's like, we're not going to put 3, 4, 5, or 6 or 7 into that bracket here to get into the playoffs. They have to make it in. You just got to find that value.
And then the Major League Baseball postseason is a completely different thing than the regular season. Frankly, I don't think there's a lot of value on either the Dodgers or the Braves right now. Minus 550 for LA to win the division, minus 280 for Atlanta. You're betting that Atlanta's going to have 102 wins if you take the over of their win total, and 103 for the Dodgers. Could happen. Is there value there? Now we look at the National League Award odds. For the MVP, the reigning MVP winner is the favorite at 5-1. That's Ronald Acuna Jr. And then following him, it is 3 Dodgers. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani. If Shohei was pitching this year, which he is not, on the bump, it would not be a plus 950 price, but he is not throwing. Can he win the National League MVP award as just somebody at the dish?
I mean, I'm sure he can do it, but again, it's that same price points that you're looking at from the New York Yankees, and also how to go approach betting winning an MVP. If Betts has a great year, Freeman and Ohtani, again, it's not going to be like, okay, you have to make one choice here. Like, no, they're going to split some bets up here, which is why Ronald Acuna is ultra talented. What does he do well? Hits for average, steals bases, and hits for power. I mean, that's the triple combo, and also in a really good baseball team. 5-1 is not a bad price for Acuna, but a little bit later in the show, I'm going to tell you who might have even more value and why you might be taking another superstar here at the good price point to win MVP, Ben.
We will give you a Pick 6 preview later. Now it's the prop perspective from Tom Vecchio next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live. Prime time.
Back-to-back just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live. Overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Hour number 2 rolling along right here on the early line on a Thursday morning, and it's a big-time Thursday morning. Why? Of course, we love college basketball. The Sweet 16 starting tonight, but even more important for us baseball heads, Major League Baseball opening day back in a big way, and no better person to bring on right now than Tom Vecchio from the FanDuel Sportsbook here, the jack of all trades. Tom, get in here. Let's talk. It's Major League Baseball day.
Thanks for having me. I am super pumped to be here. I know you are big, especially day games in baseball season, getting those RBI props going. That's a super simple way to do things. I think we can continue to do that on a day-by-day basis, a little bit of a season preview. I'm ready to roll.
Let me ask you a quick question. Before we get into some of the odds here, World Series, and what you think of this season is going to happen, take me through your day as a handicapper early in the season and how you approach Major League Baseball season, which includes opening day.
Yeah, so starting off, we obviously want to look at I prefer to look at player props. I always want to be starting off with a pitcher, hitter kind of mix, bad pitchers, essentially. I want to find the path of least resistance. Just grab something at close to even money or plus money, especially when it comes to RBI, something that can be so variable. Also, there's multiple ways for a player to get an RBI. He doesn't even have to get a hit, a walk, a sac fly, whatever it might be. So always starting off by looking at the pitchers, and then we got to factor in something like the parks. There's a wide variety of parks, Citi Field for the Mets, the Marlins Park, San Francisco. These are heavy pitcher parks. So we generally want to look towards good hitting environments combined with the pitchers, something along those lines. And then if we have a pitcher that's in a particularly great spot, a high strikeout pitcher, looking to do something potentially a ladder with his strikeout. So pitching, hitting, you can go a variety of different ways when it comes to starting your daily process.
Over the years for me, Tom, it was usually, the evolution of sports handicapping, right, was, just take a side in baseball, then you might look at some totals, then team totals were a big rage here, but I had more fun and more profitability last year taking those RBI props and laddering them. 1 RBI, 2 RBI, they're big prices, so much fun to root in. FanDuel Sportsbook has all of that for us here, but let's get into some of the odds. It is opening day. Theoretically, every team in Major League Baseball thinks they can make a run to the World Series. Now, us as handicappers know that's probably not going to be the case, and some of these prices do show it at 250 plus to 1 to win the World Series. But if we're stacking the deck and looking up top, Tom, it's the Dodgers, Braves, Astros, Yankees under 10 to 1, followed by the Rangers, Orioles, Phillies, Blue Jays, and Mariners at that 20 to 1 price. Looking forward to this Major League Baseball season with some of these futures. Who has your attention here?
Yeah, like you guys talked about in the previous segment, I have no interest in the Dodgers or the Braves. I think we all understand how good they are, but those numbers are just something I have no interest in. The team that you guys kind of briefly mentioned in the last segment would be the Giants. We expect them, they can win a wild card. And when it comes to the postseason, it's that frontline pitching. Like I said last year with the Phillies, when they have Nola and Wheeler out there, I will take Snell and Logan Webb and maybe even Kyle Harrison stepping up, in a breakout season for him. The Giants have that pitching. That's what we want in the playoffs. We want pitching. That's what the Phillies have. That's what they've shown over the past few years. I wouldn't mind taking a shot on someone in the AL like the Mariners. They have that pitching that can also get there. So I'm not looking at the top for the Dodgers, the Braves, or even the Astros. I understand the Astros are great, but that's simply just not a number I want to be going to.
Exactly. It'd be one thing. It's like, hey, you take that number and in 2 weeks you can cash that ticket. You're waiting 6, 7, 8 months to cash some of those tickets here. It's crazy at some of those low points here. But let's take a look at a market that you were very successful in last year and one we love to cheer on, and that's the home run market. Olsen cashed tickets for you last year. If we're looking this year, it looks like Aaron Judge at a 7 to 1 price, Pete Alonso 8 to 1, Schwarber 9 to 1, and there's your boy Olsen at a 9 to 1 price. Approaching the home run leading market this year, who has your attention?
Like I said a couple of weeks ago, it would be Ronald Acuna. He was at 19 to 1. It's 14 to 1 right now. Still think that's a fine price. The number one spot that I'm going to be looking at is going to be Pete Alonso if that number drops to 12 to 1, 13 to 1, 14 to 1. I legitimately think Pete Alonso has it. He's in a contract year. He didn't get the extension. I think he's going to come out swinging this year. So not looking to take Pete Alonso right now, but once those odds change, if someone else gets off to a super hot start, Alonso at 12 to 1 is significantly different than Alonso at 8 to 1.
Tom Vecchio, great to have you here. The prop perspective on this opening day of a new season in Major League Baseball. As you look at some season specials around the FanDuel Sportsbook, some intriguing numbers there. A perfect game, plus 560 to the yes, heavily favored to the no. 5 or more no-hitters, 5+ cycles. Vecchio, have you looked at this market? And if so, what do you think happens this year in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, I looked at that market a couple days ago, and I think the easiest one, the most realistic one, is probably just the cycle one. And I think cycle is a little bit overhyped. It's kind of circumstantial. A player that can hit a triple, and oftentimes triples are misfielding where the ball gets hit off the wall or whatever. So just the variability of baseball. I think that the cycle one is maybe the easiest. The 4 home run one is obviously exciting. I think that's too much of a stretch. And then when it comes to the no-hitter, the perfect games, I think that is just a bit too much to ask for, especially in the hitting environment that we're seeing in today's MLB. So the cycle one is probably the easiest of those special routes.
A lot of fun ways to bet some of these prop bets season long, but also, Tom, some of these prop bets that you like to bet on opening day and cheer them on through the remaining parts of the regular season. Give us an opinion here on some of those guys that you're targeting.
Yeah, season-long bet would be Bobby Witt to lead the league in hits at 18-1. We got to understand what this is. It's a low probability outcome, but this is backed by strong projections. Last year, he had a 17.4% striker rate, which is super low, 295 BABIP, which is great, and then his underlying metrics, his xWOBA, his x-batting average, his x-slugging, were all in the 91st percentile or higher. He got that contract extension. We look to his projections on FanGraphs, and we can see that he's projected to be 5th, 6th, or 7th when it comes to total hits this season. And if we apply a little bit of variance to that, he can push towards the top 3. And at 18-1, that's a good ticket to have coming to the close of the season. I understand the Royals aren't the best offense, and there's other players like Bo Bichette or Freddie Freeman that are playing in significantly better offenses that just should have an easier path. But Bobby Witt, man, he is a player that can certainly get it done.
18-1 right there on Bobby Witt, a very happy man in Kansas City, signing that 11-year deal worth more than $288 million guaranteed earlier this offseason. Vecchio, you are our home run prop king and maybe a season-long K prop as well. Take us through the other 2 season-long prop bets that you've already made for MLB in 2024.
Yeah, that would be Adolis Garcia of the Texas Rangers, over 31.5 home runs. He has a ton of power. He had 31, 27, 39 home runs over the past 3 seasons. His ISO last year was up at 263. He has an immense amount of power. I've said it before. I said it to Kevin the other night. The problem with Garcia is he strikes out a lot. He swings and misses a ton, but he has immense power. When he makes contact, that ball is going a mile. So if he can cut down on the strikeouts just ever so slightly, he's going to be in a great spot. And as I mentioned with him, about him, the Rangers have an awesome lineup, so he's always going to see good pitches. Pitchers cannot pitch around him. And then when it comes to Nestor Cortez, he's not a dominant strikeout pitcher. He's going to be at 25, maybe 26% when it comes to the strikeouts. You know, he was dealing with injuries last year, and my concern with him is if there's a slightest bit of an issue with his injury, the Yankees are going to scale him back because they're already missing Garrett Cole. They don't want to strain their rotation overall, so I'll simply take the under with pitchers.
Speaking of Nestor Cortez, let's take a look at some of these games that are going to play today, 4:10 p.m. Eastern. We take a look at those Yankees and Houston Astros. Battle of the lefties here. Cortez versus Valdez. Favorite here at the FanDuel Sportsbook at a -152 price for Houston. If you want the dog price, that's a +128 on the Yankees. A total of 8.5. Opening day down in Houston. How about this rivalry? What are we looking at?
We're looking to keep things super simple with a Yankee killer. That is Jose Altuve for 2+ total bases. It was -105, -110. Immense numbers last year versus lefties, 136 WRC+. He's got a 367 WOBA, low 14% striker rate. He just simply doesn't waste chances. And while Cortez pitched a smaller sample size last year, he just wasn't good versus righties. A 520 xFIP and allowing 1.59 home runs per 9. Obviously, that's something Altuve can do. He's at the top of the lineup. He's going to get plenty of at-bats. It's probably going to happen on opening day because it's Altuve and the Astros.
How about this for a card? We are fading another pitcher in our second game of the day, that American League East divisional duel down to the Trop in Tampa. It's the Rays as a minus money favorite. Zach Eflin on the bump, -136. Jose Barrios gets the start on the other side for Toronto. Tom, what's the play here in this matchup between the Jays and the Rays?
That's under 5.5 strikeouts for Barrios. It was at -132. That number's moving, -140, -145. The problem is that he's not a dominant strikeout pitcher, and the Rays are super disciplined at the plate. Last year with their current active roster, they had a 22.1% striker rate, which is the 12th lowest in the league. They had a 117 WRC+, which is the 3rd highest in the league, and a 184 ISO, which was the 7th highest in the league. So Barrios, who had a 16% striker rate in spring training, granted a small sample size, he's not a pitcher that's going to be pumping a 28, 29, 30% striker rate. It's like 24%. So the Rays are disciplined at the plate and not giving away free chances. Barrios just simply isn't going to get it done.
Newly minted ace of the Baltimore Orioles, Corbin Burns, taking the mound today, 3:05 Eastern. Cooler conditions in Baltimore, about 50 degrees, wind blowing in. A total that's listed at 7.5 today between the Angels and the Orioles. A heavy favorite for Baltimore at -172. Any looks in this game for you, Tom?
Yeah, that's it's going to be looking to an RBI prop for Gunnar Henderson, and this is going to be the spot that we see the Orioles basically throughout the entire season. They're at home, they're favorites. Someone in their lineup is going to be grabbing RBIs. You know, Donnie, as you'll probably go into them this year, it's like, okay, whether it's Rutschman, whether it's Gunnar Henderson, Hayes, Mountcastle, doesn't matter. Santander, someone's going to be grabbing an RBI. So I'm simply going to take a player at plus 145 to get the year started. He's going to be hitting in the middle of the lineup.
Yeah.
Patrick Sandoval, while he's not a big fly ball pitcher, he's also not a big strikeout pitcher. He walks too many players. He gets hit around a lot. So good contact hitter with Henderson, grabbing an RBI to start the season.
Let's go to the reigning National League pennant winners tonight at home in Phoenix. Zach Gallen, who was great at home last year in Arizona, gets the start on opening day for the Diamondbacks. They're greater than a $2 favorite against the Colorado Rockies. Vecchio, what's the breakdown here?
That's going to Christian Walker for a home run at plus 420. This is an awesome matchup versus Kyle Freeland. Last year, Walker had a 141 WRC plus a 319 ISO versus lefties, a 48.6% fly ball rate, and a 39.6% hard contact rate versus lefties, hitting that 40-40 line. And Kyle Freeland allowed 1.94 home runs per nine to righties, 40.6% fly ball rate, and 41.2% hard contact rate. You could say those numbers are inflated because he pitched at Coors Field, but he still allowed 2.2 home runs per nine versus righties in away games last year, along with a 40.2 and 38.6% fly ball and hard contact rate. This is an ideal spot for Christian Walker, who had a good spring training.
I mean, let's flash it once again. This is what you ask out of FanDuel's Tom Vecchio on opening day. 3 season-long props in Major League Baseball, a 4-play card, and I'm sure there's more on opening day for the 13 games that we have. Vecchio, a sincere thank you. We give you our pick 6 for this MLB season next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It is opening day to start the 2024 Major League Baseball season on this Thursday on the early line. And when it comes to the early line, we can do a pick six on anything. It originated in football season well before my time on this show with Donnie Rightside and Kevin Walsh. Used to be known as the Tummy. Now it is the pick six. Hey, now that is a throwback. And we've done a pick six for the NCAA tournament in the last week. Now we do a pick six for this Major League Baseball season before it gets underway, a futures forecast, our World Series champion, an MVP selection, a Cy Young pick as well, a divisional winner, a win total that we like, and a prop bet from the season-long perspective to keep an eye on throughout all 162 games of a new MLB campaign. Donnie Rightside, the floor is yours. Who is your World Series champion in 2024?
I think there's 7 legitimate contenders to win the World Series. And it's refreshing to hear that because sometimes, Ben, we take a look at other sports, particularly when we talk about the NBA. It's like, well, the Celtics and the Bucks may be in the East, and then you take a look at the West, it's the Nuggets, and let's just say if maybe a team can get hot like the Phoenix Suns, there's really only 3 to 4 teams. So it's nice to have that parity. But the one thing we don't have is really parity in the numbers overall. And the reason I bring that up is I do think the Dodgers are the best overall team in Major League Baseball, but much different than the NBA, Ben, right? We take a look at the regular season. It does mean a lot in both of these sports, right? You want to jockey for the top positioning, but the game doesn't change in the NBA in the playoffs, right? You want to have 7-game series to let the best team win. That doesn't happen in Major League Baseball. And also in a game of timing, you're giving the best teams like a 5-day break before they run into a team that's been playing all the way through and winning playoff series here. So you saw last year, like the Atlanta Braves the past 2 seasons, the Phillies were able to get by them, not because the Phillies were the best team, just playing the best in the playoffs, which doesn't necessarily happen again in the NBA. So just to get around this, the Dodgers, I do think, are the best team, but I don't like that price point, Ben, at plus 320. Same thing with the Braves. I do think the Braves are a great baseball team and probably number 2 overall in baseball behind the Dodgers. I don't like the plus 450 price. Now, the Astros are quality. The Yankees, yes, the Rangers. I told you I do like them with what they're going to get back in ammunition over the summer with some of their pitchers. And I do think the Baltimore Orioles are fun, but I settled on the Philadelphia Phillies. Pedigree, 1-2 punch, because you have to make the playoffs. I get it. The Phillies are talented. They'll make the playoffs. If you get to the playoffs healthy, Wheeler and Nola as a 1-2 punch are as good as it gets in Major League Baseball. And you have clutch players that can bomb away, as we've seen in the past 2 seasons. Has it equated to a World Series championship? No. They lost in the World Series. They lost in the NLCS. But at a 15-1 price point here, if you make the playoffs and win a series or 2, that ticket turns into money. The reason I bring that up, Ben, is when you try to equate, again, the UConn Huskies in college basketball, there's no hedging opportunities. You just have to have the Dodgers at a plus 320 price to win the World Series for you because you're not getting out of it. That's the opportunity I took with the Phillies. They'll be in the playoffs. They'll be able to make some noise, and a great ticket at 15-1.
Yeah, I completely agree with your point, DRS, especially when you look at the National League. We looked at the odds earlier, plus 165 for LA, plus 250 for Atlanta, $5.50 drop-off to the Philadelphia Phillies, and then a bigger drop-off from the Phils past that point. Now, I'm going to select the Dodgers because I believe, as you said, the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. It is not a great value. It is not a great price. But at the end of the day, I believe the Dodgers are going to win the World Series. Is this going to be the longest number we see on Los Angeles all year long? Who's to say? They could struggle at a certain point, but the odds don't expect a struggle in the regular season. Could they fall short in the playoffs, as they have in the past decade plus? Yeah, but throughout the regular season, the Dodgers expected to win around 102 games, 102.5 is their team win total. The Dodgers expected to win the National League West for the 11th season in the previous 12. So I don't know if the price gets longer than what we will see by the time we reach the postseason, and thus I picked the Dodgers. 10 of the last 11 years, they have won the division. 10 of the last 11 years, the Dodgers have been primed to make a World Series run. In those 11 seasons, the 10 they have won the division, the Dodgers have only reached the World Series 3 times. They've only won a single World Series championship. That was in the COVID-shortened year of 2020. If not now, when? With all the investment across the board, adding Shohei Ohtani, adding to your pitching staff, Tyler Glasnow, the ace, Yoshi Yamamoto is that second spot in the rotation with plenty of other talent behind and some getting healthier in a Dustin May, in a Walker Buehler, making their way back. If not now, when. If it doesn't work this year, it might never work. That is the thought, Donnie, behind the Dodgers at a plus 320 price.
And look, I can't argue with that because I start my premise or my argument for the Phillies is not that the Phillies are the best team, it's the best price overall. The Dodgers by far top to bottom, and if things work out for them, a la we don't lose 4 superstar players during the season. And keep in mind with the Dodgers, one of the franchise that truly, Ben, does not care about financial restrictions. So when you come to the trade deadline, if a top pitcher is on the market, the Dodgers will flip prospects to get that top pitcher. You know, it's luxury tax be damned here. It's one ace in the hole that you always have with the Dodgers. If they're running hot and far and away the best team in the National League, Ben, they'll still make that move to go out there and get the best player available on the market. That's what you always have as well, along with that plus 320 price.
It's a really good point as well, DRS. I don't think there's an argument from either the pick perspective or the price perspective on either of our two sides. Now we look at the MVP race. It is correlated to your World Series pick. Who wins that MVP award in the National League?
I'm with Bryce Harper 12-1. Donnie likes the Phillies. It's a homer pick. It's not a homer pick. It's just based on what I think is going to happen and what the return on investment will be. And also, the reason I did pick Bryce Harper is that he has been an MVP the past couple years. He's been injured the past couple years coming in and out of spring training. Not going to be the case now. And also, played a lot of first base last year, used to playing first base, hitting the ground running. So if he does get off to a hot start, the sky's the limit. Phillies playing a bandbox ballpark when that temperature is 80 degrees or above in Citizens Bank, it absolutely flies out, and he's protected in that lineup. It's not a singular great player sitting in the lineup that you can pitch around and get to the next guy behind him. He has protection, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, the other guy was debating. Again, price point aligned. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, all fantastic players, MVP worthy, no doubt about it. But I do think they're going to split some of those votes. You see the guy sitting up there at a 5-1 price in Ronald Acuna. He's the perfect storm. Like, Bryce Harper is great. He's going to have his big moments. He's going to hit home runs. He's going to have a lot of RBI. But the one thing that you can't deny, if Acuna is healthy throughout the entirety of the regular season, let's just say Benny plays 160-plus games out of 182. The average, the home runs, the stolen bases, and the great play on defense is something you cannot deny. He's the total package, and I do think it's a pretty good price point at 5-1, but I just went with the longer ticket at 12-1 with the Phillies and sort of that correlation that we were alluding to.
The reigning NL MVP, Ronald Acuna Jr., the first player in the history of Major League Baseball to have a 40 home run, 70 stolen base season. It's what he did last year for the Braves. My MVP pick out in the other league, that would be the AL. It's J-Rod, Julio Rodriguez, at a 10-1 number, 5th best price. Much like the Dodgers' prices in the National League, either team or individual, there's a lot of love when you look right now at Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, 5-1, 7-1. So I go back a little bit to Julio Rodriguez, who has exploded onto the scene in MLB, an all-star both of his years in the bigs, the American League Rookie of the Year 2 years ago in 2022. And last year he played 155 games. 275 was the batting average, okay, but 32 home runs and 103 RBIs. Both of those numbers growing from his rookie campaign. I believe in the Mariners. I think the Mariners have one of the best rotations in the American League. And this is a narrative award where if the pitching staff in Seattle is good and Julio Rodriguez leads the M's to their just second playoff appearance in the last 2+ decades in Major League Baseball, he will be there front and center. Julio Rodriguez at a 10-1 number to win the American League MVP. Now, Cy Young Award, DRS, for taking value prices in your other two picks so far. You look at the favorite to win the National League Cy Young. That's Spencer Strider. How come?
Yeah, it makes some sense here for me. Think that this 2022 season, unbelievable ERA. Rose a little bit last year, but the one thing we do know, again, it's about wins that you put up, which used to be in the past, hey, how many wins you're going to get? That means you're going to be the Cy Young. But we more look towards metrics, which are based on power pitchers and power arms, and Strider has that. If you want strikeouts, you came to the right place with Spencer Strider. You want wins? Sure, he's going to accumulate those as well. But a power pitcher, last year, if we take a look at some of those statistics, that ERA above a 3.5, I don't expect that this year. If he's healthy and on point, he's an innings eater, which last year approached close to 200 innings pitched. If he can do the same thing this year, sure, he'll go toe-to-toes with guys like Zach Wheeler, who are always dependable in Philadelphia. But again, maybe you get those bonus points by playing on a slightly better team in Atlanta, and you have one of those teams that might win 100 games, and he's the price point that you're going to want to take. Even though he's a in this market here, he's too damn impressive to pass up at that number. Even though it is low, he's the most dominant pitcher for me in the National League. I think he gets it done this year. Snell got it last year. I think he gets it this year.
The Phil Zach Wheeler second best price at 9-1. When you look at Spencer Strider, he is half the field and then some to get to his number at plus 380. The Cy Young Award market was weird last year. Garrett Cole won it in the American League. The Yankees didn't sniff the postseason. Blake Snell won it in the National League. The Padres were not in the playoffs as well. Interesting because normally individual success is tied to team success in narrative-based awards. Not the case a year ago. So I look at Tariq Skubal for the Detroit Tigers, the ace for that Tigers staff at 10-1, who last year only made 15 starts, only in 80 innings of work a season ago, but had 102 strikeouts in that span. And the reason I highlight Skubal, DRS, is because I wanted to talk about the Tigers a little bit. I believe there should be some optimism in the Motor City. I think they're an under-the-radar team in a very up-in-the-air American League Central. You saw A.J. Hinch is the favorite to win Manager of the Year around MLB. If Tariq Skubal is good this year, the Tigers could make a run in that division, and it would be led by the ace of that staff, who has only improved. 5.63 ERA his opening year in the bigs. Last year, 2.80. I think we see more improvement and maybe a contender in that Cy Young market in the American League.
Hey, he's filthy. You're looking for a strikeout pitcher. He's that type of guy, and sometimes you're taking a look at that next leap. And also, I like the fact that you went to the American League, because talking about it, we know Strider's really good. Wheeler's really good. There's a couple big-name pitchers left in the National League. Now you come over to the American League, and Corbin Burnes is a great pitcher, but Corbin Burnes isn't the old guys, the Verlanders on the market and the Jacob deGroms of the Texas Rangers that were getting all those feels for the past couple of years. I like where you're going with this one because it adds some intrigue here on a young pitcher, not necessarily on a great baseball team.
The AL Central, DRS, is your focus for your divisional winner. Let's fly through here. Give me your division pick, your win total that you like, and the season-long prop that catches your eye.
Yeah, take a look at the Twins there in the AL Central. As you said, that division is up for grabs. I think it's a nice price point, even though you're paying a premium at a minus 130 price as opposed to a plus money price here. I just think they're better than the rest of the teams in that division. Also, if we're going to take a look at the win total, go with the Padres at 83.5. Everybody's forgetting about them because a lot of teams really improving out there in the NL West, but you're also getting a discount on that price point of 83.5. That probably would be higher if you were looking around and the teams weren't so good in that division. I do think the San Diego Padres are a legitimate threat this year. And if we're going to take a prop, how about this? Fernando Tatis over 27.5 steals. Not home runs here. We're going to go steals. You take a look at Major League Baseball, the adaptation here of, or the invention of the bigger base path, which allows players to steal bases easily. He'll be on the move. He got it last year. I think he'll get it again this year. I'll take him to get around 30 stolen bases.
Of course, healthy, not serving a suspension. That should be big for the boys in San Diego. My pick to win a division, the Chicago Cubs. Optimism on the north side in Wrigley Field. 2-1 number, second best price to win the National League Central. Is there an explanation why I have Kansas City over 73.5? Not so much. The American League Central up in the air. Craig Mish told us that was his best bet. I bet it. It's one of the few win totals that I have. And Pete Alonso, over 41.5 home runs this year. He had 46 a season ago, 53 in his opening year in the bigs. As Tom Vecchio said, it's a contract year for the man known as Polar Bear Pete. I think he goes over 41.5 dingers this year. Who is going to win a World Series? That was the question for you, the public. We do it up next here on the Early Line.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We end out this second hour live right here on a Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid, but not just any Thursday. It is opening day Thursday around Major League Baseball to start a new season in 2024. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. We just gave you a World Series picks, how we see the future forecast in MLB this year. Now time to hear from you. We do that in Fade the Public. At SportsGrid TV on Twitter, who will win the 2024 World Series? The Dodgers, Braves, or the Astros? Three shortest prices on the FanDuel Sportsbook, but because we can slot in a fourth option, we said other. If you said other, you must reply. I went with the Dodgers as they were my World Series pick, but most of the public, Donnie, 49% of the public, the leading option and the leading vote getter was other, and a reply. Our producer, Joe Frizo, said the Yankees. Jordan Penseal said the Diamondbacks, the reigning National League pennant winners. We had a Cubs in there. We had a couple of Phillies. And shout out my man, Sean Isaacs, who just replied, reply. It was good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the reply actually is supposed to be the Phillies. So even if you replaced other and reply with Phillies, it would still be 49.2%, as that's where the general public is hoping it goes that way. But I do love the fact that the public is basically looking at that Dodgers and saying 15% here. Now, I do think it's opinionated in the reason why, Ben, for me, price point on the Dodgers, maybe a little bit too low because, again, the Dodgers probably the favorites to win it, and rightfully so, but people want to put their money elsewhere and maybe swayed by some of those better price points, which could include other by taking some of those long shots.
Yeah. We'll talk about the World Series odds at the start of next hour, hour number 3, and then we'll dive really firmly into the Sweet 16, more MLB previews with Craig Mish, and then our picks for the Sweet 16 on this Thursday as well. But it is really interesting because if the public is fading the Dodgers, despite all that LA has invested this offseason into winning a World Series, not to winning a division, not to having 110 wins in a regular season, but to win a World Series, that will be interesting to see where the market moves throughout this MLB campaign. Our third and final hour starts in 55 seconds.
smarter to be on SportsGrid.